Hey, what's up guys? John from Links World. We got ourselves an install video today on one of the few rainy days in Southern California. So we're gonna put a radio in a 5.0 Mustang. So let's get to it. Hey guys, all right, so like I said, we are here to put in our T-style radio in a Mustang. Pretty fairly simple, straightforward install. It's going to take a little bit of extra take apart compared to like the Dodge trucks and maybe the Ford trucks, but we're going to go through it. Just need a couple tools. You're going to need a 7mm. You're going to need some kind of panel popping tool. If you are one of those guys that likes to be a vigilante, you can use a flat blade screwdriver, but don't blame me if you scratch your plastic. You can get these just about anywhere. They're super helpful, so you're going to do that. So what we're going to do is we are going to take apart the dash here. We're going to pull off the air vent panel here. There's going to be a couple 7mm behind that panel there and behind the glove box here. There's a little tray here. We're going to pop this out. There's going to be two 7mm that go down here. And then down here on the sides, on each side here, you're going to pop off these panels. There's going to be two 7mm that are holding this top piece on. We're going to open up our armrest here, and then this panel is going to pop up because we have to pop this panel up to slide it back because there's a little door here underneath the radio that's going to have two 7mm. So we'll pull these two 7mm, and then once we pull off our air vents, there'll be two more 7mm up here. We'll pull that off, and that's going to release our control panel here with our ACs, and then it's going to reveal to us, I believe, 6 more 7mm holding the screen and a couple more down holding the radio down below. But once we get all of that out, we will look at the plugs, we'll talk about where we're gonna run things, and we will continue on in the install. So because I know you guys' time is so important, we will go fast. I will speed up the video as we take this apart. Try and keep up. Cool, let's do it. All right, so we got our panel out. You can see we unplugged everything. And like I mentioned, there's 4. Some of you guys will have a CD player, some of you won't. Doesn't matter, chassis is the same thing. We need to get this out. There's actually only gonna be 4 screws holding the screen in. And I totally lied to you about there being 7mm in the above the glove box here. I do recall this, so perhaps the older Mustangs had it. So just verify before you yank on that panel that there's not a couple 7mm going upwards. I could be completely wrong, I am getting old. But yes, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and pull off the screen, pull off the radio. I'll get the harnesses out. We'll talk about plugs and harnesses. We'll talk about running microphone, and then we will keep going. So let me get these out real quick. All right guys, so let's talk about our plugs. So a few of these plugs will be on every install. There will be a couple plugs that are only going to be on specific installs depending on your factory radio. So let's talk real quick all the accessory ports. So we've got our red one here, that's USB. If you're going to do any kind of plug-in CarPlay, this is the USB you have to use. It'll say phone link on it. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back. If you're gonna plug in CarPlay, you have to use the USB that says phone link. So this is gonna plug into the radio. We've got an auxiliary input in case you're an old school guy and you wanna plug in your old school iPod, you know, headphone to headphone or something like that. We've got our DVR power. So just an inside note, this is just gonna be a power and a ground output. So you could use this to power a variety of different things. Don't do anything that's going to use a big amount of amperage. It's not a high amperage output, but maybe you're doing cameras or something like that. This would be a good place to grab your power and your ground for those things. Just don't overload it because the CAN bus can't put out that much power. So, but that's where this green plug is here. We have our purple toss link because this is a Gen 5. If you're Gen 4, sorry, you don't have toss link. But Gen 5 will have toss link, so that's this one here. We have our RCA outputs for our aftermarket amplifiers as well, the microphone input. So this will be used even if you're not using aftermarket amps, because you're going to need to make sure you plug in the headphone. Now there will be, if I can find it, another yellow plug in my hand. There it is. I'm going to tell you to do something with this one I said it in the Jeep one and the Dodge one. This was an attempt for us to fix when there was a pop in the amplified systems. What it ended up not being was the signal. It ended up being something else inside a CAN bus. So when you see this one, I need you to do something. This. Get rid of it. Don't look at it. The only yellow plug you want is this one. It's got the RCAs. Don't use the other one. Cool? Okay, good. Sweet. So those are those plugs. And then, of course, we have our camera input plug. We come ready to do a front camera, rear camera, and one side camera. If you're looking to do more than that, you're going to need some kind of camera switcher, which is another conversation. And then your typical plugs that you'll need, your navigation antenna. So this thing here can go under plastic, cannot go under metal. So for us, I will probably pop that panel off right above the air vents to stick it underneath it. Make sure there's no metal over top of it. That's a good place to put it. And yeah, that way you don't see it, but it still works. We have our microphone, and yes, you have to install the microphone. You have to install our microphone. We do not retain the factory microphones. I can give you a big, long explanation for that. The rule, the main thing is, if we use another part that is not ours, we cannot regulate quality. Now I know you guys are like, oh, but my factory mic is amazing. Maybe, but what happens if it goes bad? You're gonna blame our radio, not that mic, and we would have no way to check it. There's no way to check it. So you do have to install our microphone. Now, on some of my other videos, I've pulled out factory microphones and shown you how to mount this in that. You can do that here on the Mustang. Your factory microphone is up here in your overhead. I don't know that I'll do that in this install, but you can do that, or you just put it up here on the A-pillar. Works really well, up by the rearview mirror, whatever you feel is aesthetically pleasing. But hear me say, you must install our microphone or you will not get CarPlay to work for phone calls, or Hey Siri, or Hey Google, or Bluetooth phone calls. None of that will work if you don't install our microphone. Always people asking that. So, wow, I just told on Hey Siri. See that? Pretty cool, right? And then we have our Wi-Fi antenna, this nice little slim, sleek thing. This too can be underneath the plastic. You want to try and keep it away from metal, because metal does not work, is not a conducive area for information to flow. So if you want a good Wi-Fi reception, try and keep this away from metal as much as possible. It doesn't have to be up on the window, though if you want to, you can do that. But those are those plugs. Real quick, let me show you about the factory side of things. So on the factory side of things, you're gonna have our main power harness, which is this here. So these two plugs actually came from the radio or CD chassis, depending if you had the CD. So the two main plugs that came behind that is actually where your power harness is gonna plug into. So we'll plug that into in a minute. But the other thing I wanna talk about is the two varied camera interface wires. So you see the little one and you see the big one. You will use one or the other. So any Mustang that I believe is pre-18 that has the small 4-inch screen will actually have a plug that looks like this that went into the back of that screen. I believe it was 18 is when they switched it. Anything newer is gonna be, it doesn't matter what size screen you had, you're gonna use the big locking one. So if you unplug the small one from the back of your little screen, you don't need this one, throw it away, okay? So you're not gonna be, because hear me say this, there will be a module behind that screen, and it will have a plug that will plug into this, though it is not the right plug. So you will not use both. You will use one, small one or big one, small one or big one or the other. For us, it's the big one, so I'm gonna throw the small one aside, and that's that. This comes from behind the factory screen. It's the big locking plug, and that is our harnesses. You know what? I'm gonna have down here on the bottom where each plug plugs into the back of the radio when I go to plug everything in, so that you guys can see that, so you don't have to ask about that. So yes, let me plug our harnesses in real quick. Like I said, we'll do. I'm gonna run our microphone, get that all done. And then once all of our stuff is plugged in, I'm gonna grab our radio, because there is a component of the radio that we're gonna have to mount, and we'll talk about that. And then we will mount the radio, power it on, get it rocking and rolling, and we'll show you what it looks like. Sound good? Let's do it. All right guys, I went handheld real quick just so I could show you what I did here. So this one had the center channel, so you can see I pulled the center channel out, and there's a little slot here that the factory harness runs through. So I went ahead and mounted our Wi-Fi antenna right here, and we're gonna run in, and then our navigation antenna is right in this little cubby hole down there, and it's running down. We're gonna go through the hole, and then you can feed it through right down there into where the radio will mount. So I wanted to do a quick video to show you how I did that. So it's nice, easy, hidden, and simple. So let me get that speaker back in and finish plugging stuff in. I will be right back. All right guys, so we got our wires ran, everything's all set, ready to get plugged in. And there's one more step that we gotta do before we can put our radio in. And that is to mount the bottom part of the radio to the T-Style dash. So you should have this cool sticker on the back of your radio showing you exactly what I'm telling you to do right now. But you should have a package of 4 nice itty bitty little screws. We'll give you 4 just in case you lose one. But you should see there's 3 spots for it. And then this panel's got 3 slots. So you're literally just going to slide this guy in over those, put the screws in the back of that so that the mounting's here. We did it this way because for whatever reason in shipping, I don't know what it was, but they kept snapping. So this way they don't break. It's a little more work, but it's what you got to do. So find yourself a nice little P1. Magnetic is helpful. We're gonna go ahead and put these 3 screws into the bottom of this, and then we will start plugging stuff in. Cool, do it. Okay, so I lied. There is one more thing we have to do, and that is to pull off the factory cigarette lighter from the factory bezel. Let me see if I can get this in focus for you guys real quick here. So let me tap it, there we go. So you should see these little plastic clips. You're gonna bend the clips, push this forward, which is gonna pull it out of the plastic trim, which will pull the metal out, and then you'll be able to pull the plastic out. And then we're gonna take the plastic piece, snap it back into ours, and then this will go back into the metal thing. It should all snap back together, but that's the way it is. There are little clips holding this metal piece in here. We're gonna pull those out so that we can push this out the front of the bezel. And that should be the last thing I hope we have to do. So let me grab a pick and pull off my cigarette lighter adapter. Hang on. Alrighty guys, we are ready to plug stuff in. A couple things to note in the dash here. One is, I find it a little easier to pull all of our plugs out of the lower chassis, because you'll notice on the radio we're gonna plug upwards. That way wires aren't coming over this and then up, and then the radio's trying to press against it. So if you come out this lower hole here and up, just will fit a little bit better when you go to put it in. Wanna make sure as well, one of the most common mistakes is plugging in the wrong FM antenna. So there'll be 2 antennas at least on the back of this radio chassis. One's yellow, that's XM guys. You want the fat coax. So the one that has almost like a coax that runs to your old school satellite box or your cable box or whatever. It's the big one, that's your FM. So make sure that's what's plugged in. And then if you happen to have the bigger screen where you've got the USBs down here, you should note there should be a mini USB at that factory screen, which you will use this adapter for here to plug into. If you have 2 of the mini USBs up there, we do have an adapter that you can use. I just don't have it in my hand, but it'll be a little mini USB to a standard USB, and you'll plug that into USB 3. Look at that, magic, boom, bing, boom, that right there. You're gonna plug it into the secondary one, and then this you'll plug into the female of the USB on the white plug. And then there is a jumper here for USB power. So there's an orange and black coming off of our main power harness, and there's a matching orange and black on the big plug that went behind the screen. You wanna make sure you plug those in together because that's what's gonna power the USB hubs. So you wanna make sure that is plugged together as well. So you should be able to see all of this, all of that's coming out there. Our factory USB here that we pulled out of our bezel will snap back into that piece that we mounted the cigarette lighter adapter to. I'm gonna go ahead and right here, I will have the picture of the back of the radio so you can see where each of the different accessory plugs go on the back here. I got a couple of them in here, but it's just easier for me to put the overlay so you can see that. But we're gonna go ahead and plug all of this in. Let me just say this because I'm not gonna stop until it's all the way in. You should see these little tabs coming off the bottom here. Just be mindful when you're going back in the dash. Notice these are wider than the hole. So you're just gonna be careful. Otherwise you're gonna end up ripping up your leather here and then you're gonna be all mad because that is not a cheap part to replace. So don't do that. So just be mindful when you're getting it back in once it's all plugged in, and be careful how you massage it in. And it's gonna go in. We're gonna have two 7mm here, these two 7mm there. We will get all that mounted. I'm gonna put those panels back on, snap the center back in, and then once it's all together, we'll power it on and we will talk about climate control and how to program that. So once again, watch me work at the speed of the Flash. Ready, set, go. Alright guys, we have our radio installed, dash is put back together. It's time to boot it up. I'm gonna go ahead and get it booted up real quick. But while it's booting up, let me real quick walk you through what you have to do next. It's installed, all plugged in. Next thing you gotta do is grab your factory panel and you need to decide, do I have dual climate? Do I have auto climate? Because if I do, then your Mustang is a Mustang high, and if you do not, then your Mustang is a Mustang low. So if you have this programmed incorrectly, a couple things are not gonna work right. Your mode button, not gonna work right. Your AC, not gonna work right. Steering wheel controls might not even work right. So make sure you do this part, guys. Make sure that you have it set to the correct Mustang. So get your radio booted up like we have here. So let me jump over to the radio. It's super easy, guys. We are gonna look for settings. We're gonna go ahead and hit settings. We're gonna go to system. We're gonna go to settings guide. From settings guide, we're gonna go to car model AC. And you can see here we have the option for Ford, and there is a Mustang low, Mustang high. Ours, you should get this in the photo for you here. Ours is a high. You can see I have two different climate control, temperature controls, and I have a button that says auto. That is telling me I have a Mustang high. So I'm gonna select Mustang high. And then you wanna make sure your protocol is Chang Yu Chong with Zinpu and that your car info is set to new. And then once those are set, you're gonna hit okay. It's gonna back out a page. It will give a pop-up that says can't find logo file. That is 100% okay. That is just literally because you don't have a specific file there, but the file is already downloaded. So don't stress out. It's all good. It's all good. Doesn't matter if it says that. We're gonna go here. Once we're on this page, we're gonna hit the back arrow by the house button one time. It's gonna get us back to where we see car model AC. And down at the bottom, we're gonna hit save and reboot. We're gonna say okay. The radio's gonna reboot. When it reboots, it'll be set to the correct climate control, whether you're high or whether you're low. Get that Mustang started up, play around with it, guys, and you should be set to go. Your steering mode should work, all the different side buttons should be working, your climate control should be working, steering wheel control should be working, backup camera should be working, all that's gonna be set up. It's all done through the CAN bus. No extra programming. Once you've set your HVAC, you're good to go. So that is it, guys. That is how you install a T-style radio into your Ford Mustang. Hope that was an educational video. Thank you for joining me on this rainy Southern California day. Hit that subscribe button, keep watching our videos, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace out.